can burn. I'm keeping my lamp full, waiting on the bridegroom. Cause when the kingdom comes, say I wanna be ready.
Welcome back to Lamp Oil Stock, a channel where we look at different issues from an Israelite point of view. And we're going to continue on with our Red Letter Bible series. The next part, what do you got for us today?
We have Matthew 9, verse 9.
Okay, Matthew 9, verse 9. All right.
And Jesus passed forth from thence. He saw a man named Matthew, sitting at the receipt of custom. And he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him.
Thank you for listening. No, I'm just see, last time you got to do it. I was waiting. Okay, so in this particular verse, Christ recruits Matthew
Right.
to be one of the disciples.
Uh-huh.
And that's really all that's going on here.
Well, yeah and no. I think it's interesting that we've been doing the Red Letter Bible series, starting with Matthew.
Right.
And he hadn't even been recruited yet.
That's true. That is true. And I know that, we talked about it a little bit offline. And even though I knew that, I know it starts with Christ's birth. So, of course, he's not there. Right? But this is where Matthew joins the group.
Right.
Right? So then the question becomes, how did we get all the stories prior to this?
Well, Matthew is in the Bible, so Matthew is a witness that we would look for when we want to confirm something. So he is a witness, and what we're saying is that Matthew had the Holy Spirit. So even though he may not have been at all of these events that took place that we read about, through the Holy Spirit, he was still able to witness to the events that had happened.
Now, last time we spoke, in the last one of these that we did, I brought up Matthew 3 and 1, where it's talking about Christ's birth.
Right.
And that the Holy Spirit is there.
Right.
And I'm just re-clarifying. So the Holy Spirit is there the entire time. And Matthew is the author of this book.
Right.
Inspired by the Holy Spirit.
Right. And we know the Holy Spirit was there at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And the Holy Spirit was there when all of the Bible was written. The people were inspired by the Most High. So it's not, it doesn't go out of character for the way that the Most High works for someone to be able to witness events that they were not necessarily at.
Right.
If you look at Moses, he witnessed events both in the past and in the future and was able to write about those events with the Holy Spirit guiding him.
Right.
So with this, it would be the same kind of thing where Matthew did not necessarily have to be there in order to be a witness to the events that transpired.
Now, we don't time these. This isn't a timed event. We started off with deciding to go through Matthew.
Right.
And I think it's at least relevant to come up with that this particular passage comes along at this particular weekend.
Right.
Because this weekend is First Fruits.
Right.
This is when we're celebrating First Fruits. This is the time when the Most High gave the Holy Spirit to men.
Right. Now, we know that not everybody is celebrating First Fruits at this time. Depending on which calendar you use, this may not be it for you, but it is for us. So please don't just say, well, I'm not listening to you because this is not when we celebrated. I think that the Most High will work that out later on.
We'll get the calendar straight.
Right.
But yes, this is the time that we happen to be celebrating it. So to me, it's timely. I mean,
Right.
This is a testimony, although it doesn't specifically say the Holy Spirit is who inspired. It doesn't specifically say that, but by saying that this is the time that Matthew joins the group, it implies that since Matthew wrote this book, this is when Matthew joined. All the previous chapters have been inspired by the Holy Spirit.
Right. Which, of course, at this time, Matthew doesn't have, but Christ does.
Right. But when the book is finally written,
yeah,
he will. I'm with you. And that's the other thing to think about. And some of that becomes a stumbling block, or can become a stumbling block for folks today, because today we think of, if you didn't see it, how do you know? Or it's hearsay.
Right.
Right. I didn't see it, somebody told me, and now I'm writing it down, so it seems like twice removed. Where with the Bible, we're talking about faith.
Right.
We're talking about someone who's writing down the story of events without him being present, although the Holy Spirit was present and is inspiring him to write it.
Right. So a lot of times people will try to discredit this person or that person for the things that they say. And I think that we need to be careful with that. We need to judge the Spirit by the Spirit. And if the Holy Spirit is in someone, then we need to take that into account when we're reading the accounts that they mention in the book, or even today when we're listening to someone talk. What spirit is working on them when they're speaking, and not just immediately think something evil about that person or whatever. So what Christ had said to Matthew was, follow me. And I wanted to not just go on and ignore this statement, because I believe everything Christ said and that is written down is important. So I wanted to take a little time out and just look at this separately so that people wouldn't just ignore it as well.
And I'm with you, because when we get ready to do these, we go back, we pull the Bible, and we go, okay, let's look at the next part and see what it is. And I immediately read over this line, and in my mind, I know that that's what happens. He's like, hey, Matthew, come on with me. And I immediately went to the next part.
Right.
Because, that's a story that's about to happen. And, I mean, I didn't mean to skip it, but, all he says is follow me. And I was just going to go right on to the next part. But in talking to you about it, and this is something I do want to just bring up again, every line's important. Every line does bring something to mind, and in talking with you about it, is what really brought it to me, of how important each line and just the words are.
Okay.
Now I want to bring up one last thing before we go on with other stuff, but this particular story is written in Mark and in Luke, right? So in Mark, it's in Mark 2, 13 through 15, and in Luke, it's Luke 5, 26 through 29. Now, it's the same exact story for this line. It's the same exact bit that happens in this line, except for one thing. It uses a different name for Matthew. It calls him Levi. Now, in Mark, it calls him Levi, son of
something.
I'm not pronouncing it right. Please forgive me for that. So I went back and looked that up.
Okay.
I went back and looked it up, and the Israelites often have more than one first name. They
Right.
have like the name that is used most often, and then they have kind of more of a private name that's used through well. So don't get too confused if you go back and you read these different verses. Make sure to kind of line them up next to each other, and when you're looking them up and you see, it's the same person.
Right.
It is the same person. The exact same events do take place. It is the same person. I just wanted to bring that up. Just because I want, people to look at it. You have to do, to me, the more work you put in, the more you get out of it.
Right.
So that was also just really kind of interesting to me. The other thing, no, go ahead. You look like you got to say something.
Well, I was going to say, when we look at the words "follow me," if we can remember in Matthew, and I should have looked it up first, but I believe it's Matthew 8 something.
Right.
Christ said, "Follow me," to someone else, and then he said, "Let the dead bury the dead," right? So, in that example, Christ was saying, leave your past behind, because those people are dead. We have work to do.
Okay.
It wasn't just, leave those people behind, but leave your past behind. What you thought, what you knew. Mind you, these are all Israelites, and they know the law. So they have the law. It's not leave the law behind, but it is leave your thoughts on how that law is supposed to be used or administered. Leave all of that stuff behind and follow me, because Christ came to show you the right way to follow the law.
Right. Now, I want to be clear about that. It's not leaving the law.
Right.
It's leaving a messed up understanding of it.
Right. Right.
Because he's going to show you how to apply that law correctly.
Right.
I want to be clear about that. I don't want people to think that the law left or something.
No. It's leave all the things you think you know, right? And all the wrong things you had been taught, and let me show you the right way to do it. So in this, he comes and he grabs Matthew and he says, "Follow me," right? Because he's going to teach him the right way. And now, my husband said, "Well, this isn't in the Old Testament," and I'm going to disagree with him.
I didn't say, you didn't hear me say it I did say it behind the scenes. It's like, it's not the Old Testament. What are you talking about? Okay, all right, you got it. Go for it. What you got?
So, in 1 Kings 19, and I've used this chapter before, in 1 Kings 19, verse 19, it says, "So Elijah departed and found Elijah, son of Shaphat.
Yeah.
He was plowing with 12 teams of oxen, and he was with the 12th team. Elijah passed by him and threw his cloak around him." Verse 20, "So Elijah left the oxen, ran after Elijah, and said, 'Please let me kiss my father and mother goodbye, and then I will follow you.' 'Go on back,' Elijah replied, 'for what have I done to you?'" So, if we go back to that context, Elijah came and said, Elijah, this prophet, comes and says, "The Holy Spirit is with me. I'm doing my Father's work.
Right.
Come and follow me so I can show you the right way." And that's represented by him putting his cloak over and saying, "I'm going to take you under my wing." And Elijah was like, at first, Elijah was like, "Well, I got, some things that I got to tie up." And Elijah was like, "Well, go on away. I ain't got nothing to do with you. What do I have to do with you?" And then Elijah understood, killed all of his animals, and immediately followed him. Today, a lot of people, because of the way they were raised, the way they were taught, the way the world speaks, they feel like there's this stuff that they know, that they are bringing to the table. And this is saying, leave everything behind and follow after Christ, because Christ was sent to show you the right way. So your mother and what she thought or thinks doesn't matter. Your pastor doesn't matter. None of that matters. Allow Christ or the Holy Spirit to come and show you the right way to go, and quit trying to bring all this garbage. You know, you hear people leaving the faith because their parents aren't doing the right thing, or not coming in and to the understanding because of the understanding they think they already have. Mm-hmm. But if we had the right thing, we wouldn't be in this we wouldn't have this problem right now.
I'm with you.
You know, I think one of the smartest things that a person can realize is that they're stupid. And if you can realize that you are not that intelligent, then you can start to learn the right things. But when you're trying to bring all of everything in the world into this without looking at the teachers, you know, we had Moses. Moses came and he gave us instruction, and he showed us how to live. And it didn't matter what we were doing before then. It didn't matter what our family and friends were doing before then. We had to stop and get in line with what Moses was doing, because God gave Moses the Holy Spirit in order to teach and guide us. Moses said, someone's coming that's even higher than me. Now Christ shows up. So it don't matter what other people think or what they've done. What we need to be doing is figuring out what Christ did and follow in his path. So follow me. This is what Christ is saying to you today. Follow me.
Okay. Now, I'd like to add just a little bit to that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so check this out. So I went back and I'm looking at Matthew 9.
Right.
Right? And we already read it. And he said to him, follow me. And then it says, follow me, period. And he arose and followed him.
Right.
All right, so it implies he got up and left, right?
Right.
Okay, but if you read this exact same line in Luke,
Mm-hmm.
Luke adds an extra couple of words. Check this out. So he's sitting at the custom seat, and he said unto him, follow me. And then Luke 5:28 says, and he left all, rose up, and followed him.
Right.
He adds in those extra words, and I think that really puts a little highlight on what you were just saying. You know, I know Matthew doesn't say that, but Luke, I think, wants to bring that up. He left all, left everything he was doing, rose up, and followed him. You know, that's a really important point that you just brought up there. It's not about what the group you're in is doing, be it family, be it a church, that doesn't matter. It is we are to be following the example that Christ set, period.
Right. So the question to you guys is, are you going to follow him as the Holy Spirit is coming and giving you the wisdom from the Most High to do the right things and to learn, and to grow, and to go into that path, that narrow passageway? Are you going to take it? Are you going to allow other things to hold you back? You going to leave all? I don't know. That's the question.
That is a question. And I'm with you. Now, let's also remember one more thing here. Two things happen in this. Yes, Matthew gets up and follows him. That's absolutely true. But also, the Holy Spirit is also illuminated in this line. As we said at the very beginning, the Holy Spirit knows more than you do.
Right.
You know, and is a comforter and a teacher there for you as well. Much like Matthew later on is able to write events he didn't see based on faith and his belief in the Most High, the Holy Spirit gave him information that he himself didn't personally see. It's going to work that way in your life as well.
Right. Right.
So to make this the most positive message we ever gave, I hope. Guys, thank you all so very much for taking a few minutes to look at two words, one line in the Bible. Thank you all so very much for taking the time out to look at it. Hopefully this gives you a reason to go back and read over the lines yourself, or still reading through Matthew, you know, and see what you get out of it as you read through it and those type of things. Spending some time in the Bible, always a good thing. So, do you have anything else?
Kwam Yasharala.
Bye.
back then.